Welcome to another episode of Making of a Brand by GrowBharat. This project is very close to me because of the two reasons. One, because we did this project in a region where I belong from. This is done in Rajasthan. And second, this project is related to education. We're working with an education institute, DPS Abu Road. And I personally believe if you want to bring a change in a society, education is where you start your work from. And when we were small, it was so difficult to find a good school. All my schooling was done in boarding, and just purely because there were not so good schools were there. And today it's completely a different story. You can see a world-class campus which has been built, given accessibility to close to more than 2,000 villages in and around. Now people can come here, get the world-class education with world-class infrastructure which is provided, and build a better society and better world around them. So when we started discussing about this project, one thing I really liked about the management, that their focus was not just admission. They wanted to build something, they've already built something which will last for generation. And one thing I still remember while having my discussion with management is we have built a world-class infrastructure. We have amazing faculties from across the country. How do we reach and communicate this message to maximum people around that, and also highlight the core principle what this education institute is carrying with. So that was a thought process. And then the most important part is how do we bring the real story what this institute is carrying to the outside world. And the gap was, yes, there is a massive infrastructure, wonderful campus, great teacher, a robust education system, but still the messaging was not reaching to maximum people, or rather say the right audience. It's not only with the schools. I think with every activity which involves a commercials into that, because see, it's important that when we are building, there's a money is required to run and sustainable, and maximum focus goes around that how do we recover what has been invested. And hence when it comes to institution, this again the focus is more on admission. Nothing wrong in that, but the most important question to ask is why a parent would admit their child into an institution. It's not only about the infrastructure, it's not only about the curriculum, it's a holistic development which a parent is looking at. In fact, the child is also looking at. Now, admission is a byproduct of the activities which you do, and I personally believe if you work on inputs, the output will follow. And this is where I encourage even many other institutions not only just focus on admission, but carry this message throughout, that how do you tell your story to the outside world in consistent way throughout. And admissions are definitely a byproduct of what you have been showcasing over a period of time. Yeah, as I mentioned previously, and the management was also in sync with my thought process, that they are here to build a legacy, they are here to build a brand. And so we started with the core areas, like why does a school exist? Why do even parents send their children to school? And why do children come to school? And there are few fundamentals which we worked on. One, definitely showcasing the potential of the school, where the first place comes in the infrastructure, because you can't do everything at home. You need an infrastructure which is joyful, playful, massive, where you get an opportunity to participate in multiple activities. That's one. Second is the teachers. I think teachers play a very crucial role in terms of shaping a child future. So how do we bring the stories of the teachers who are already there from the different part of country? How do we bring their story alive? That was the second area we started focusing on. Third most important is, what is the feeling of the students who are already studying in DPS Abu Road. We created a wonderful stories, and you'll be seeing around that. We created a wonderful stories around students, what they're feeling, how joyful they are, uh, how DPS or this institution has helped them to become a better version of themselves. So we started focusing on the core and basic elements which are very important for any institution or school. I think storytelling is a very underrated tool. All of us love stories, and from our childhood we've been hearing stories. We're able to connect ourselves with the stories, and if you have to explain something in the most simplest way, I think storytelling is a beautiful way to narrate that story. We use this in multiple of our communication. We created various script which brings the essence of the core essence of the institution, the energy, and throughout the elements of the storytelling we bring into various communication, which played a very important role in reaching out to the right audience. So yeah. See, short term, yes, as I mentioned, both are important, because during admission time, there are multiple options, and every institution, every school want that they get the right audience at the right student at the right time, and also over a period of time, long term, where you become a brand, where you don't have to chase for admission, where people are willing to look forward to your institution to take admission into that. So both have their own advantages. It's the right mix of the balance which matters most, and most of the institution focus too heavily during the admission season. And one of the biggest mistakes a lot of agencies do is pick up trend. I'm really completely against that, because see, a trend might be working somewhere, but it can't work in every scenario. And it was very funny that recently a movie was released, and the dialogue, I could see the dialogue in every brand, every institution, and so one of the completely against what I look as, look at the trend, but only which are relevant, which will bring context to what an organization is doing or institution is doing. So the balance of both is very important. But I'm favor of the second, that you build something for a longer duration of time, which is more sustainable, and rather than chasing or pushing for a particular duration of time to build a brand. I think all these are very important element for a parent and a child to become part of any institution, and we closely played a balance on all these elements. If we took out if we speak about infra, definitely infra plays an important role. As I mentioned, apart from infra, the teachers are the important part of this entire ecosystem. The fellow students are also part of the entire ecosystem, the method, curriculum. So we started focusing on all the core element and try to bring everything together, so that when a parent or a child is looking for an option for themselves, they get an opportunity to look at all the elements which can help them to make a decision for themselves. I think every place has its own energy, and even my previous project, if you go and see the previous project which we have posted around the Ocean Crest Hedvi, so I believe it's a very important part when you are on ground in that location, you could sense what is the energy that thing is bringing, and how can you communicate that energy through your work in your marketing communication. It's very important, and that can only be experienced when you are at a location, you're feeling that energy, you're sensing that energy. Now if I talk about this institution, one of the things which I felt is, one, it's very peaceful. The founders are involved into spiritual activities. The location, if you look at it, it's on the foothills of Mount Abu. It has its own. If you go and look at the history, it has its own history of bringing those elements, and it can only be felt when you are in that location. So, one, when somebody is picking up the project, or rather when we pick up a project, we spend a lot of time in sensing that energy. It's very difficult to explain in word, but it can only be felt. So we spend a lot of time in understanding about what that entire location bring, that ethos to brand communication, and how can it be translate the same message through our media communication. So I think the most important part is, and this is not only related to DPS Abu Road, it's perceived wrong. People think marketing is where you push somebody into a decision, and a lot of hesitance comes when we ask a lot of teachers to come in front of camera, whether we ask students to come in front of a camera. But I look at and when they all were hesitant coming because of that perception of no we have to market or something. I just simply told one thing which helped them to understand the perspective, and I told that your message will help somebody to make a right decision for themselves. And I'm not saying that decision should be in favor of they should be coming to this school, but they should get a better perspective through your message, and that can only be done when you put your right message in the right words, and just think from that point of view that you are helping somebody to make a better decision, whether it's for a parent or a child. And with that sentence, this people felt very comfortable. There was no burden, there was no hesitant in terms of communicating that message, and it went seamless. So as I mentioned previously, please don't follow trends which are not relevant or related to the kind of work. Second is, don't chase admission. Look from a longer perspective of building a brand. Third is, just think it from that you have to help somebody to make a better decision, and when a person make a better decision, not necessarily they will end up in your institution. Your job is to help them to give a better perspective, and then the choice definitely lies with them. Fourth is very important, to have a consistency in whatever you're doing. And fifth, most important part is, don't forget the basic. People will not look at trends, they will look at what the institution is bringing, the value addition to the child, how their education, the holistic development is happening actually on ground, day in and out. Those are the basic things which most of the time I think during the marketing communication get missed. So don't forget the basic, because basics helps to make the right decision. So these are the few things I think should be kept in mind. So I'll tell you a simple analogy for building a brand. So I'll start with, first is, what is marketing? So marketing is when you communicate something to other person and tell them that why your product or services are good for them. That's marketing. Advertising is when you keep on repeating the same message over a period of time, it creates a belief system. That's advertisement. PR is when other people start talking about your product or services, and then they say, okay, this XYZ product or services are good. That's a PR. The most important is brand. When people come to you and they tell you, I know how good you are, I know how good your work is, and then they make a decision by themselves without any influence. And that's the time you become a brand. And that brand can happen only over a period of time when you stick to your values, when you stick to basic principles, and you maintain consistency over a period of time. And that's where you can become a brand in the space you're operating in.